That rhetoric guy. I can remember some version or another of Socratic seminars during my education, all the way back to high school. And while I knew that these were supposed to be little discussions that required I had some prepared questions ready along with some background reading, I wasn't really fully conscious of the philosophy behind such seminars, or even really how this was supposed to be different from other discussions, or what I was supposed to learn. This knowledge didn't even come to me until I started teaching, and even as a teacher, I made a number of mistakes in conducting good seminars, Socratic seminars at least. So this video is designed to explore that, why we structure discussions in this way, what we can do to improve our thinking and our preparation for such discussions, how we create insightful Socratic seminars. So this is for teachers and students alike. Stick around. All right, we can't get very far unless we start off with Socrates himself. Like all historical figures, especially those older than a couple hundred years, and those who haven't left us extensive writing or artifacts to find to give them grounding, we aren't entirely sure if the stories of Socrates refer to a real person or not. They may be more parable-like, fictionalized. Pretty much all the information that we have about Socrates comes from more or less three different sources. Plato, who was another philosopher and supposed student of Socrates, Xenophon, a historian of the time, and then some miscellaneous other writers who were mostly playwrights, dramatists. They all gave us a couple of specific life events in the supposed life of Socrates, but mostly they taught us about Socrates' beliefs, the way he taught, the things that he taught. Socrates himself never left any writings for us to find. He never left any artifacts for us to find, and even if there were, they've certainly been lost to time by now. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter if Socrates, the person, actually existed, or if he was always just a story, or if his philosophy has been blended with Plato and others throughout time, which is actually fairly likely. It's not that we're interested in Socrates as a man, as a person. We're interested in his ideas, this constant questioning, this philosophy of skepticism. That is what has stood the test of time. That is what stays with us till this day. So let's take a look at some of his philosophy, some of these ideas that have stayed with us. I'll blend a little bit of Plato's philosophy with Socrates, as it's kind of hard to figure out where one stops and the other begins. But Plato imagined that there was this realm, this dimension, outside of our current experience, and in that dimension contained all possible capital T truth. It was a realm of ideas, perfect forms of things. And the reality that we inhabit now acts as a kind of shadow or mirror of that perfect dimension. In this outlook, our reality is the slightly warped, imperfect approximation of those perfect forms. So that here, in the real world, you could build a really nice chair. And that chair might be what you consider perfect, but it's not actually perfect. It's an approximation of the perfect idea of a perfect chair. Or that here, in reality, you could have a good person taking a good action, but all that person is really doing is mirroring what a good action truly is. It seems that this realm of the forms is kind of an advanced version of what Socrates himself actually taught. Socrates imagined that we don't that when we don't exist in reality, our essence resides in this kind of unattainable realm of perfect ideas. Okay, that seems kind of cool, but maybe a little old-fashioned. Why bring up any of that? What's the use of thinking about Plato's metaphysics, this idea of what exists beyond the real? Exactly. Why? Questions. Socrates imagined that by constantly questioning our beliefs, our actions, what people tell us, what we expect, essentially all aspects of the world around us, if we do that, we might find ways to remember, to activate the parts of our essence that once resided in this realm of perfect ideas, the realm of truth. If your constant pursuit in this life was one that revealed contradictions and clarified misunderstandings and sought to fill in the gaps in our knowledge and made us criticize our own assumptions and made us critique the approximations that we come up with, then maybe you would find your way through the shadows to glimpse what is true, to remember ideas at their perfection. Socrates made this worldview, this metaphysic, clear with a simple statement of truth, what we call an aphorism. He said, "What I do not know, I do not think I know." This statement has been modified over the years for clarity. It might be something like, "I don't claim to understand the things of which I am ignorant." Or, "I know that I don't know things." Modified even more, and to the extreme, you might see things like, "I know that I know nothing." Or, "It is wise to recognize that you are not wise." Socrates emphasized that virtue, all virtue, is knowledge. And without knowledge, we'll be led down a path of wrongdoing and misunderstanding and bad action. Virtuous action, artistic action, even the art of love comes from asking good questions. Questions allow us to be the midwives to knowledge. Questions help us birth truth into the world. All right, that stuff is pretty cool, but I mean, no modern day philosopher believes in a separate dimension of perfect ideas. Philosophy and metaphysics and pedagogy, the art of teaching, they've come a long way in 2,500 years. We've long abandoned these kind of superstitious metaphors for knowledge. Questions don't make us remember capital P, capital T, perfect truth. But that doesn't mean that questions aren't valuable. In fact, that aspect of Socrates' beliefs, the part about stimulating, self-correcting analysis, revealing presuppositions, refining our thoughts down to something specific and accurate, some descriptions and explanations of reality, the best that we can do, that continues to be a powerful tool for learning. Enter the Socratic seminar. Seminars are, in this context, just a group-based discussion in an academic setting. Now, there are lots of different ways to conduct a seminar, from these elaborate formal setups where you have specific rules for each person, and you have these inside circles that have their own rules and these outside circles that have their own rules. Or it could be something as simple as an informal, I ask, you respond kind of discussion. I'm not going to go into any depth into that kind of thing, how you conduct these seminars, what kind of procedures you use, because one, that's not really the point of this video, and two, I think that's much more about your personal teaching preference and your classroom management style. Rather, I want to finish off this video with 3 points about the conduct of such seminars and the Socratic philosophy that should guide both teachers and students. 1, there should be an awareness that debate is not the point, at least not in this kind of seminar. Undoubtedly, students are going to disagree with each other's interpretations of the text or whatever is the focus of the seminar. But if your seminar becomes like an argumentative essay, where students argue back and forth about who is correct or which interpretation is best, you'll be missing the most important part of a Socratic seminar, the Socratic part, the part that's focused on questions and how those questions reveal our thinking. Socratic seminars shouldn't be about debate. They should be about students clarifying rather than asserting. It should lead students to question how some other student arrived at their conclusion rather than focusing on the conclusion itself. It should have students ask and create more questions each time some answer is revealed. Socratic seminars are about exploring our thought process, not our opinions. The way we think, not what we think. 2, unless you're trying to clarify what someone said, all questions should be as open-ended as possible. That means that questions where the only possible responses are yes or no shouldn't be used. It also means that questions about facts or easily Googled things or something about the plot of the text, those kinds of questions shouldn't be used. Remember that we're trying to reveal new or hidden knowledge that's connected to and born from previous knowledge. But facts and yes or no questions, they don't and they can't really reveal anything new. It's about nuance, the gray areas, the subtleties, the small changes, the little quirks that we hadn't thought of. That's where Socratic questioning really shines. Finally, 3, since this is all about how we think and why we think that way, constructive criticism should be something discussed before the seminar begins. There's a big tonal difference between saying, I don't like this, and saying, this doesn't really work for what you're trying to do. There's a big conversational difference between saying, that's stupid, and asking instead, I don't see the logical connection there. How did you come up with that? There's a big meaning difference between saying, you're wrong, and saying, could you walk me through the steps that you took to get there? These seminars thrive on keen observation, empathetic feedback, and skeptical critiques, so that ultimately we can communally understand things, so that we can democratize meaning. The easiest way to hamper those goals is to have students insulting or dismissing one another's ideas. Seek to explore why you don't understand or don't agree. Seek to provide alternatives or avenues for further discussion. Seek questions that would reveal solutions instead of dead ends. All right, I hope that clears up some of the misunderstandings and misuses of the Socratic seminar. Hopefully this helps you in the future to guide your thinking and come up with more perfect knowledge. Question everything.